Yeah, so tell me a little bit about yourself. You said you started analysis a couple of months back.
Yeah, I did. So about 6 months ago, I started Lacanian analysis. So it's been about 6 months. And yeah, I started when I was a student, and then I graduated um in December. So I finished up school, and then I've been still like doing analysis and stuff. So
Nice.
yeah.
What were you studying in school? Like, is it related to like psychology or philosophy at all?
Actually, no, it's actually like completely unrelated. Like,
Yeah,
I
same.
studied computer science.
I'm in the same boat.
Oh, nice, nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm studying IT too, so it's
Okay.
completely unrelated. But yeah, keep going though. I found that funny because like I'm in the same boat as well. Like I'm studying all
Yeah,
this stuff by myself, and then the actual
totally.
academic studies that I'm doing are totally unrelated, you
Right.
know?
Yeah. Are you trying to like figure out a way to
Yeah.
like combine them in some type of way or something like
Yeah,
that?
yeah, like I've met with like a Lacanian in Toronto, and she was speaking like when I was speaking to her, she told me that she did like a paper on like computer, like so she studied computer science as well. So she did like a Lacanian analysis of like programming and like or like the language. Like I forgot exactly what it was, but there was like she did make a link between the two. But
Interesting.
I don't know. I don't think I'm intellectually like, able to go that far. But I have hopes of, I don't know, maybe becoming an analyst or like, I don't know, maybe pursuing a master's in like social work or psychology or something like that
Cool.
to hopefully bridge these aspects of myself together.
Yeah,
Um,
totally.
but how about you though? Like, are you interested in kind of bridging those two unrelated fields together?
Honestly, the more I like think about it, the more it seems that it seems difficult to combine them in like a meaningful way. I think I took a class on psychoanalysis in college. Um, but it does seem super interesting to me. It really I feel like my choice to study like both of them were like also completely different. Like
Mm.
I feel like with computer science, it was like kind of wanting more like kind of technical rigor or like
Yeah, yeah.
more that kind of side of things and more
And you're more likely to get a job too, as well, you
yeah,
know?
yeah, more practical reasons I was about to say. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I want a job without going through like 12 years of school and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was a consideration. Actually, before I like started college, I was at like kind of like choosing between like okay, like I either want to study computer science or I want to study psychology. And
Mm.
then I was thinking about like clinical psychology. So a friend of mine's dad like sat down with me who was this clinical psychologist, and he was like, listen, like it's like so much longer before like you can actually like start
Mm.
working and stuff down like the psychology route. So I'm like, okay, I'll do like the more practical thing and just
Yeah,
like
yeah,
do
yeah.
the 4 year degree. So yeah.
Awesome. Nice, nice. And like where are you studying? Like are you in the States or
Yeah,
uh
yeah, in the US at UC Berkeley.
okay, nice, sick. And how was like that course on psychoanalysis? And like did you say you took it in college? Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I took it while I was studying there. It was pretty cool. It was that was where I was first introduced to like Lacan. Like I
Damn,
never
so
like
they taught Lacan off the bat. Like
yeah, they
that's
did.
crazy.
They did. Yeah. I remember like the teacher being like, "Oh, like yeah, this guy's like it can kind of like get complicated and like kind of like
Yeah, no shit.
yeah, yeah." And I was like, I don't know what like because I never knew anything about him. So I was like, I don't know what that means exactly. I don't know what that warning was. But then after he started talking about like a lot of this like signifier, signified, and like
Yeah, yeah.
all that stuff, and I was like, oh my God, this is like going way over my head. This is so
But that's dope though. That's dope that like you were like that like you had access to that like on like in the like university level. Like I know for me like I took like a psychology elective in my first year and they were just like shitting on Freud. Like why is psychoanalysis bad? and like, it's like multiple choice
Yeah,
question, and it's like, there's nothing kind of like validating like Freud's thoughts, at least in the first years. I know like later on, like in the like if you actually pursue psychology, like the degree, like later on it's a little bit more, there's more freedom to it, and you're able to kind of study whatever you want. But at least like for me in the beginning, like, it was like there was this huge kind of it's like, they treated Freud as if he was like a pseudoscientist, or like he's like,
yeah,
it's this ancient way of thinking, but now it's more like cognitive science in the brain, and like it's more like a
definitely.
biological kind of approach to it.
Yeah.
But that's dope that you had like Lacan off the bat, and like did you guys talk about Freud at all? Like did you guys
Yeah,
yeah?
yeah. So they talked about Freud, and they talked about just also just like analysis specifically, like the kind of relationship between the analyst and the
No way. That's
yeah.
cool. That's dope, man. That's sick.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really cool that like it was kind of a one of a kind class. Like you said, I feel like it's not too common to like kind of have go go into like the kind of more analysis kind of end of stuff in like undergraduate classes. But yeah, that was really cool. And also it was interesting though, because like part of the class taught like it was like divided into two sections. So like the first half of the class was like the complete opposite. It talked about like cognitive behavioral therapy
Yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, yeah.
And then the second half, it talked about like psychoanalysis and like
And it's a
psych
good mix, I guess. I guess it's a good mix of like, what's popping in the psychology world right now,
yeah, exactly. You know, something I was thinking about, or like I don't know if you've noticed this too, but just in terms of like content online about psychoanalysis, in terms of like actually like the experience of like undergoing analysis is
Mm,
like pretty lacking. Like I don't know if you
yeah.
like looked into it, but
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I like
yeah, yeah.
barely see anything about it.
Yeah, like that was kind of my like when I posted my video about me going like undergoing analysis, it was kind of like um it was like in that kind of line. Like I didn't see that many people posting about it and stuff. So I'm like, okay, this is interesting. Like I haven't seen anybody talk about like their actual experience, or like if I did, it was like very, very, like very, very brief. Like it's not very noticeable. Like it doesn't pop out to you on, like your For You page or anything.
Yeah.
Um but yeah, like how do you feel now that like after like you've like you're like are you still undergoing analysis, or yeah?
Yeah, yeah,
So,
I
mhm.
still am going twice a week.
Okay,
But
that's cool.
yeah,
That's dope.
yeah.
And how do you find that now? Like pre-analysis. I can't really say post because we're still undergoing it, but
Right, yeah, yeah.
like
Um
would you like any insights, or like how did it affect you?
yeah, I would say the thing like is I think when I started, I knew like not that much about like Lacanian analysis specifically, especially like I did take the class, but it wasn't like I still like felt like I barely knew anything about
Yeah.
like what it even was
Yeah,
really.
same. Yeah.
So yeah, yeah. So I feel like as it progressed, I was more like, oh, okay, I kind of like can see like what's going on exactly, like in terms of like subjective personal experience with it. Like
Mm-mm-mm.
I feel like something I noticed was like, you know, a lot of the like repetition of like things I was saying back
Yeah,
to
yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah, so I feel like that also I feel like between session and like the timing of the sessions with like the variable length
Oh, okay,
stuff.
so you have that too, eh? Like it gets
Yeah,
cut
yeah,
off.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I feel like
Yeah,
with that stuff it was interesting because like,
yeah.
you know,
Personally, I fucking hate it. Actually, it pisses me off, to be honest,
yeah.
because yeah, yeah,
Like after like 20 minutes they're just like, "Oh, okay."
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it can definitely be like abrupt, but yeah, I do think like what it felt like to me was like ending on like something seemingly substantial, like kind of
yeah,
abruptly. I felt like what it did for me was like in between sessions, like my mind would be just kind of like in the background, like almost like processing something.
yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah. I know exactly what you mean. Yeah,
yeah, right. Yeah, I don't even know exactly what it is, but like I feel like that's like my experience with it, especially over months, is like it's really subtle, but it's like, and it's
mm,
kind of a slow, it's also non-linear, I feel like. But
mm,
like over time, it's like these connections of like the stuff that's like you're working through in the background kind of come together, and
mm,
then
mm, mm.
put like two and two together almost. Like
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
what it's
yeah.
been like for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I resonate a lot with what you said, especially with like the ending of like the session. Uh like I've also had a similar experience where like I remember I opened up like crazy, you know, and like to the point of like I was about to cry, you know? And then he
Mhm.
was like, "See you next week." And then in my head, I'm like, yo, like, what the fuck? I'm like, aren't you supposed to like, you know,
Yeah.
like, what if I end up doing something crazy or like leaving a patient in a state of, hypersensitivity, you know? But then it's
Mhm.
like the more I reflected, and this is just my own reflection, you know, um, it really does push this idea of like you know yourself more than the analyst. Like you know like the responsibility falls on you. Like it's like nobody knows you more than you know yourself.
Mhm.
Nobody can give you that hand or whatever. So it's like I find the role of the analyst very, very interesting. And it's like to constantly maintain that role of like I honestly I don't even know what it is, like of being a mirror or like redirecting like the gaze back onto you, you know?
Mhm.
So for me, like that's what I've learned. It's like you're like I remember in the beginning like I would get very, very like angry and like I'm like why aren't you like giving me this, like this is what you are, this is your structure, like why aren't you giving me this theoretical essay
Yeah.
about why I am the way I am, you know? And
Mm.
then it's like and I didn't know as much, like I didn't know a lot about Lacan. Like I read a little bit of Lacan before I went into analysis, but
Mhm.
I was expecting that, like I was expecting that she would, like my analyst would speak a lot like or like use like theoretical lingo, but that was never the case. I don't know about you. Is
Yeah.
this the same, like
Yeah,
is
no,
like
I completely relate. I feel like I went in with a similar expectation. I was like, oh, this person's gonna know way more than me and be able to like provide me with some paragraph like explaining
yeah.
like why I do stuff and stuff like that.
Yeah, I remember at one point I'm like she like I was kind of going on about like why I want to know what she's thinking. I'm like can you provide me your notes? I'm like can you give me your notes? And she's like why do you want my notes? So, like but what's
Well,
yeah,
yeah, I've had like similar thoughts. Like I want to know what their like hypothesis is,
yeah,
like what their like kind of thinking in terms of like everything that I've just like
hmm
said and stuff. And that's not, it's like not how it works.
yeah,
And it's
yeah,
like a tough kind of like I feel like progression in the thing is realizing that you like they don't know more than you about
hmm
yourself kind of thing.
hmm
Like really subjective.
yeah, and I feel like it's like that relationship that you build with your analyst and like this like the constant repetition of like this slight indifference from the side of the analyst. um like I feel like it could be replicated with your relationships with other people as well. It's like um I would say like the desire for me to be understood or assessed by the people around me has greatly diminished. Not in the sense of like like not accepting criticism or like judgments and stuff, but the desire to be like accepted by like the people around me to the point of like like learning to accept myself by having another person accept me first, so it's like this insistence of the other to initiate how I feel about myself. I feel like through
Mm.
analysis, that kind of like desire has greatly, like diminished. So I do see like but what's crazy is that like the analysts didn't give me these like insights, and like I thought that like they would, like
Yeah.
but yeah, it's like this slow, like you said, non-linear way of like progress, or I don't even know if progress is even the right word to say, because it's
Yeah.
just like, everything is always everything's being reinvestigated constantly, so
Yeah. Totally, totally. Yeah. Yeah, I totally can see how like it's just it's not progress exactly. It's like change. Like it's like the narrative I'm telling myself now is maybe
Yeah.
slightly different, but it's still a narrative and maybe like needs to be explored in analysis or and that's another thing. Like how do you so you're still in analysis, correct?
Yeah, yeah, I'm still so it's I started as of last year, not like I think last January. And I was doing like weekly sessions, so like one time, like one session a week. But as of next week, I'll be doing like two sessions a week for the duration of the summer.
Oh, cool.
So I'm looking forward to that. I don't know what I'll be expecting. I think you have more experience in that than than I do. But yeah, so I've been doing it for a year now.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I wonder like what do you think about like the termination of like an analysis or like what do you know about like that kind
Yeah,
of like
that's
change?
so it's so funny that you say that because that was literally what I brought up in my last session. I asked her, I'm like, okay, I'm like like when does analysis end? And she's like, it's not up to me or like it's not up like for me to decide. Like she's saying this, and then she finished the session by saying, I think you should see me more often. Like
Oh, definitely.
yeah, so I don't know. I think it's something that I'm still kind of working on. I do think that at least like my own thoughts are it's like you need to break up with the analyst. It's like I think that's like a good way of phrasing it. It's like you build this attachment to the analyst. You build transference towards the analyst, and that signifies the progression of the sessions.
Mhm.
Um, but then it's like, the analyst assumes like you build such a relationship that like where the analyst becomes a figure that knows more than like that knows you more than like your parents or like at least is what you're like the things that you're sharing are things that you wouldn't necessarily share with like everybody, so like
Yeah, yeah.
they become a very very strong figure in like in your psyche. At least this is what I think, I don't know. I'm probably gonna get bashed like, well, you're wrong, but I don't care. But I do think that like at the end or like the termination of analysis would
Mhm.
be to kind of at least like just I don't know to not rely on the analyst. Um, but I honestly don't know. Like right now, I'm reading a book right now called Self-Analysis by Karen Horney, and I'm like I don't know maybe 50 pages deep, but it's like the idea of like can a patient self-analyze themselves? Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so I don't know. I don't know about the termination of it. I don't know
Got you.
how,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, because
What are your thoughts about it though?
it seems like yeah, like I'm thinking about it. It makes me think of something like what even is like the purpose of like going to analysis?
Yeah, yeah.
Like like I don't even like is there something to be said about that? I know like there's probably like for Lacanian analysis specifically, the aims of that, probably differ, I would imagine, from the aims of like a Freudian or some like a Jungian or something. But I guess I'm kind of curious, like, do you think that there are values of like within kind of like the philosophy of analysis itself, like in the
Mhm.
relationship, like are there like certain values that are like kind of more valued over other ones? And like if so, then it seems like that could be kind of critiqued in a way. Like I know you talked about I think in a video about anti-Oedipus and I know like these kind of postmodernists might have a like have
Yeah,
a
their own way of thinking about it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I'm curious what you think about like the values of like analysis.
I think that you truly like you can only create that distance and critique it once you've went through it. I think that there is something greatly beneficial of analysis, but there's also something that's, I don't know, like stagnant about it too as well. Because like like from just our conversation, like you've probably experienced this as well. I might be assuming, but sometimes I'm like, okay, I don't know what the fuck to bring to this session, you know? I'm like, why am I like, like I don't want to go to this
Yeah,
fucking session, you know? And like,
totally.
okay,
Yeah,
like
yeah. I
what am I
relate.
gonna gain from this? Am I just gonna like, it's like I'm just paying them just to pay them at this point.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
But even that, like even your response is something that needs to be investigated as well. And it's like that's what I like about analysis. It's this constant investigation of what's happening, your responses to whatever.
Hmm.
And it's like to the point where like even like I don't know, like your meta reactions of the sessions become a subject to investigate as well. So it
Hmm.
becomes like a parable for like everything else that you do in life. And for me, that's where I find like the value in. It's like this replication, you know, it's like um and I do think like the relationship between the analyst and the patient is there's a lot of values that are very, very important that occur within that relationship that I don't think you'd ever be able to have in any other relationship, you know? But I would say like the critique would just be like or like the approach to criticizing analysis would be like the determination or like this like when you reach a point where you're even the role of the analyst becomes something. It's like you see through the bullshit. You're like, okay, like you actually don't know me, so like why am I wasting my time with you?
Hmm.
But I think once you reach that part, that's where like it's like you've progressed, like you've changed, you know. And like I think that's like the role of analysis is to bring you to that point, and then for you to kind of like I don't know, like separate yourself from the analyst. I don't know. Like, for me, like there's still a lot of question marks regarding that you know that
Hmm.
aspect of things. But I do think that there's a lot of value in analysis.
For sure. And do you think there are um, like kind of like overt or like explicit like moral values
Mm.
underneath like analysis? Like for instance, like life over death, or like
Mm,
something
mm,
that's
mm.
kind of like implicitly in
Yeah.
like the analysis itself.
Yeah, one thing that I like the reason why I feel I'm more comfortable with psychoanalysis rather than other forms of therapy is like the free association. To be able to say absolutely anything, you know, and to not have that be used against you in a sense of like, okay, like I have to prescribe you medication because you're showing me signs of psychosis, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like so I like that value of using all the material of like the whole like everything that's being said and you're not kind of boxing the person into something, you know? Like it's that freedom of just using language and like the limits of where you're going, you know?
Mm.
Um and like something I would do in analysis was that like I would kind of play along with my thought or like I would put on this like or like if I would say something and then my analyst would kind of like I don't know put emphasis on a word that I would say, I immediately be kind of like I kind of like I became aware of like this facade that I'm putting, but I would keep going with that facade to see where it would lead me, you know? So it kind of it's like I would kind of detach myself and I'll play along and see where I'm going. But it's like if the person that you're speaking to isn't aware of that, like they might believe that facade that you're putting on
Totally.
and they
Yeah.
might like say okay this is what oh you remember when you said this like you're this now you know like you're that
Yeah.
facade. So I think like the fact that that there's this freedom to express absolutely anything and to the point where it's like I remember early on in my sessions I was very like I was very challenged by, you know, like good and bad and how the things that I could say could make me look like I'm a bad or a good person. But to be able to be in a space where you're able to like express anything and have the analyst not kind of like play the role as like the judge or anything. I think that's like it's greatly beneficial, you know, for the progress of the patient, for the progress of the discourse and analysis. Um, and
Yeah.
it's kind of like beyond good and evil in some sense, you know, like the free associations.
Mm. Right. Yeah, I can definitely see that. Like it is like, do you still find yourself like, because I think something with like there's this almost, I don't know, kind of, yeah, like non-morally judgmental space to kind of explore stuff. And at the same time, there's still like, I feel like it's not the easiest thing to like go everywhere. Like I feel like sometimes, I guess, there are things that like there's still like resistance to bring up, even
Yes.
though it's like it on some level, like you can kind of like intellectually know that it's like, um there's this space of like anything can be brought up. It's still like almost
Yeah.
like sometimes find myself like the self-censorship. It's not like, completely, you know what I mean? Like it's um like there's still that like hesitance
Yeah.
to,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that in and of itself can be like
Mhm.
brought up and
Yeah,
talked
yeah,
about.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like this recursive nature of constantly analyzing everything. Yeah, I feel and I feel that like I resonate with that a lot too. Like there's certain areas where I have a lot of resistance towards and a lot of hesitancy and bringing out. But then it like one thing I realized that like, you know, like I don't need to tell everything to the analyst as well, you know? And to be able to kind of deal with these things on my own, it's like I feel like it gave me the tools to not like self-sabotage when I reach that you know, space within myself of where I have like this great resistance. You know, it's like you don't again the analyst is I know in French, I don't know in English, but it's like le sujet supposé savoir, the subject that assumes knowledge. You know, it's like you're they're not this entity. It's like they're not this all-knowing entity that knows. They're not God in some sense. Like it's like
Yeah.
that's really what it is. They don't know the best course of action, you know? So it's
Right.
like once you build that sense of like, I don't know, like independence and detachment, I feel like it gives you the tools for you to, you know, like not self-destruct or build negative habits whenever you face yourself dealing with those resistances individually, you know? Um,
Mm.
yeah.
What do you mean by like you said like self-destruct or like self-sabotage?
Yeah, or like it's like it just like for instance, if the thing that you bring like that you feel hesitant in bringing out, maybe I'm mi like misreading what you're saying, or even, you know, Freudian slip, I don't know. But you know, it's like at least for me, like there's certain things that like you know, like I feel great hesitancy in bringing out in my sessions, you know, just like you know, like you know, personal issues that like you don't feel like you know, you want to share with like anybody, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And dealing with that by yourself without the right tools, at least for me prior to analysis, you know, like you don't know what the best course of action would be, you know? Like I remember I would like either overtly judge myself and put myself in a box of like, okay, yeah, you're like this horrible being, you know? Or it'll be the complete opposite, like, oh yeah, like you're like freaking Jesus, bro, you know? So it's like this constant swing. I think the meeting's gonna end in like 10 minutes, but we'll
Okay.
I'm ending in 5 minutes, and then we'll renew it. But yeah, so it's like leaving you with the tools for you to not like either like, you know, like not being this like dealing with your own like trauma like in a healthy way, you know? So yeah.
Got you.
I don't know if that clarified things, but
Yeah, no, that clarified it. It was interesting what you mentioned about, you don't have to tell your analyst everything, and,
Yeah.
because I was thinking about how it kinda seems like if that were the case, it seems like there's this parallel to, like, kind of like in Christianity,
Yeah,
like,
confession, like
confession,
confession.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, I have to reveal everything, and
Yeah.
then suddenly that, like, I can be saved or something.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, definitely. But I find that space very interesting of like confessing, and then it's like, at least for me, um, what does the analyst do? You know, there's like, at least for me, it's silence. There's they don't, it's like you want them to assume the position of the redeemer and the judge. Like you want to be
Yeah.
judged. You desire to be judged. So it's like yeah.
Yeah, totally.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah. No, like, yeah, there's this I feel like especially, like, at the very beginning, there was I think in English, it's the subject, supposed to know or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, there is that kind of, like, this person, like, knows,
Yeah.
and this person, um, is some kind of judge or something.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
there is, like, some kind of, like, combination of those things that is kinda interesting.
And it's through that it's through that, like the whole like the subject that assumes, I don't know, knowledge. I'm probably butchering it, but um it's through that that analysis begins. If that wasn't the case, then you wouldn't have like you wouldn't build that relationship that you have with the analyst. And even like when you, like, for instance, like read a book, when you read a book, you assume that the book that you're reading is going to tell you something, or like you're going to learn from this book. So it's like you implicitly like trust the other in order for them to like help you in some way. So it's like if that's not there in the beginning of analysis, then the discourse is jeopardized. So it's like but it's like it's through the repetition, and it's through the progression of the sessions where that kind of figure gets like dismantled, you know? It's like you see through the mask, and you're like, okay, they don't know more than me, you know?
Mm. So is there some kind of, like, what do you think about, like, self-selection of, like, someone who would go to analysis? Like, is there something with that? Like, someone even, like even to do that to begin with, like, you start with "This person will be able to help me," like, to even go.
Okay, I'm gonna end the session now. I'm gonna end the meeting now, and then I'm gonna send you another invite, okay?
Okay, okay, for sure.